Welcome to the AR Show, where I dive deep into augmented reality with a focus on the technology, the use cases, and the people behind them. I'm your host, Jason McDowell. Today's conversation is with Robert Scoble. Robert is a futurist, strategist, and the author of 4 books about technology. His latest book is The Infinite Retina, co-authored with Irina Cronin, which explores the emerging era of spatial computing, including AR, VR, robotics, autonomous vehicles, and more. Robert has spent his career at the intersection of technology and media, working as a journalist, an evangelist, and a futurist, most notably at Microsoft and Rackspace. During that time, he's interviewed more than 1,000 people, from research labs to startups to major tech companies, including the likes of Tony Hsieh, Mark Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates. The interviews, mixed with his own insights, formed the basis for the 4 books on technology trends he's published in the last 14 years. But in 2017, he was accused of sexual harassment by several women, which became public during the Me Too movement. What Robert did was wrong, and he admits as much in our conversation. He goes further to describe the necessity for better behavior and better, more diverse company cultures throughout the tech industry. He seeks to counsel founders on the dangerous mindsets that lead to sexual harassment and the damage it causes to victims, their careers, and the companies where they work. He also counsels founders on the risks of loneliness, mental illness, and addiction, which are all far more common than many of us realize. Jump ahead in the episode to 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 20 seconds for this part of the discussion. We start our conversation talking about Robert's latest prediction about Apple and their plans to create the next great spatial computing device. This interview was recorded a few days before the recent Apple announcement about the AirPod Max, a device that forms the basis of Robert's predictions. He describes something with immersive spatial sound and visuals that can create an entirely new type of experience. We also talk about Google Glass and its violation of an implicit social contract we have with each other, as well as the role of Tesla in the broader definition of spatial computing. As a reminder, you can find the show notes for this and other episodes at our website, thearshow.com. Let's dive in. So Robert, can you tell us the story behind the story of you coming out of the shower or having the photo taken in the shower with Google Glass? What was happening there?
What was happening there? My wife and I were fooling around. No, I wanted to see if they were water resistant, and so that I could take them out in the rain and people would know that they would survive a little water on them, you know? And I was just like, hey, let's do a picture in the shower, you know, because I live in California, it doesn't rain. If I have to wait for a rainy day to prove this point, I'm going to wait a long time. So people don't know this about journalists. When you get a new device, you're constantly trying to find something new to say about it, right? Because in that first week, everybody has written about the device, right? Everybody knows about it. So I was trying to come up with something with a new angle to chew on for a bit, you know, which is water resistance. And my wife took that picture and put it on Facebook. And when we shot it, we had no clue it was going to be our number one. I mean, it's been seen tens of millions of times, right? And it magically took that image and put it in their patents, you know. So it's going to be the only thing that survives 1,000 years from my life, because the patent system is going to be kept around, right? So
that'll be your legacy.
That'll be my legacy. He took a stupid shower photo with this weird thing on his face.
Did you already know the team at Google before you had gotten the Glass, or did you get to know them more after?
The way I got it, I was in the front of Google's developer conference, and my friend Vic Indotra, you know, he was an executive who helped fund Android and helped fund Google Glass. So yeah, they announced it, and I ran and was one of the first ones in line to buy one for $1,500, right? And the rest is history. Yeah, it's a real interesting device. I think about it a lot, and I think Apple learned a lot of lessons from it. And that's what they do. That's what Steve Jobs does. He tells his teams, you know, the pioneer gets shot in the back, and then we take over his position, you know, or her position.
There we go. So what is it that Google got so wrong with the device?
They didn't understand the social contract that we have with each other, right? When we're looking at each other, talking to each other. Right now, if you pulled out your phone and started looking at it, I would probably, you know, give you shit. I would be like, what? Am I not worth talking to? You got something more important on your phone, right? And that's the renegotiation of the social contract that happens around dinner tables and stuff like that. But at least with the phone, I can see what you're looking at, and I can see what you're distracted by, right? And there's no information asymmetry. So Google Glass has brought a bunch of new things to bear that it didn't know what to do. In short, they launched it badly. If they had launched it differently, like if they said this is going to be a device just for, construction crews to wear or enterprise, like Magically wants to, say they are doing that, nobody would have cared about it, right? Because those social problems don't happen in enterprise. So, if I'm wearing a device on my face to fly a plane, nobody's caring, or running a factory, nobody cares, or doing a surgery, nobody cares, right? It's when I go out and hang out with normal people that these issues come up, right? The social contract issues. It also didn't do that much. And I fell in love with it real quick. I said, this kind of device I'm never going to take off. And obviously I'm not wearing it right now, so I was wrong about that. But it did have some really interesting utility. It had a microphone close to your mouth, so you could always talk to it. Hey, Google, what's up? It had a camera, which got a lot of focus of attention, right? But the camera wasn't actually that good. And that's the downside of it. It's like, this thing failed because it wasn't that good. It was early, and they were trying to put a lot of computers in a small, tiny space and do new things, right? And it was early. I think the devices coming out in the next 24 months are going to be quite different than that. So, yeah, I went to Coachella one year, and there was two Google Glass guys behind me. I didn't even see them at first. And two guys right in front of me said, one guy said to his friend, I have to get away from the Google Glass guys. And so I grabbed him because I was like, what makes you nervous about this? Because this was even before all the glass holes and all the people who got in fights at bars and stuff like that, right? And that sort of turned the PR against it. But these two guys at Coachella, and keep in mind, I'm in the middle of the Sahara tent with 10,000 people holding their phones.
Are you wearing your Google Glass as well?
No, I wasn't even wearing it then. I didn't want to take on these social problems of having to explain what this thing's doing. Keep in mind, I've had people 100 deep lining up to try it, right? I didn't want to deal with any of that at Coachella. I wanted to go and enjoy music. I didn't want to go try to explain Google Glass to 1,000 people, But anyways, there was these two guys behind me and two guys in front of me. And everybody's recording on their iPhone or their phones, right? Their Android phone or their iPhone. Anyways, we're in the middle, and everybody's dancing and holding the phone, recording everything. Everything's being recorded. Everything's being recorded by them too, right? They have professional TV cameras recording the audience as well. So there's no privacy in this place. It's like you're on TV, you're up on the screen. So, everybody knows this, right? So I grabbed the two guys and I go, what is it that makes you nervous about this thing? What? Because that's real interesting. I'm a tech journalist. I want to know why you're all nervous. And he tried to blame it on the camera. And I'm like, dude, there's nothing wrong about the camera here. You're being recorded by 6,000 other cameras that are all in people's hands, And in fact, they're better cameras on the iPhone now. Certainly today, they're way better cameras than they were on the Google Glass. And they said, I don't know. I feel, and we unpacked on that. And that's how I learned about social contract. It's like, oh no, there's something going on here that nobody can really explain to you, I mean, who talks about social contract? Yeah. And so that's why the camera got blamed, by the way, because people would have these uneasy feelings about it and go, I don't know how to explain my uneasy feelings, so I'm going to blame what I can see, which is a camera aimed at me. And so, Apple's first device isn't going to have a screen.
Not going to have a screen? Is going to have a camera?
It might not have a camera.
All right, tell me more about what you...
Might have a LiDAR.
Might just have LiDAR.
Which, to me and you, is the same as a camera. But to the normal person, it's not a camera, right? It's a 3D sensor, right?
Right.
And most people don't know that it's also a camera, because the 300,000 points of data that it can see around the world can see color and bring back a 3D image of your real house, right? Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'm writing a post for shortly before these things ship. or our Bible. Let's put it this way. So probably next June. This thing's coming in March to June sometime, from what I hear.
So tell me the whole story. Back up. And what is your perspective on what Apple is trying to accomplish, maybe from a bigger perspective, given now that they've had 7 years to study what Google has put out publicly. And of course, Google started before then in delivering this thing. And we know that Apple's been working for years, iterating internally on different versions of what some sort of head-worn device would be.
Many prototypes, and this is what makes it real hard to figure out what Apple is actually doing, because there's still a chance I'm wrong, right? There's still a chance that next Christmas they come out with a completely different device that I didn't see coming, right? And they have plenty of prototypes to pull from. They've been playing with this device for a long time. This is Steve Jobs' last device. So maybe that should be the name of the show, Steve Jobs' last device.
Steve Jobs' last device.
Yeah, remember when he's told Walter Isaacson in his book, his last book, I figured out TV. I figured out how to disrupt TV or change TV or improve TV, right? Mm-hmm. This is the product. This is the product.
You don't think it's a better Apple TV streaming service? You think it's a face-worn?
No, it's a face-worn. It's a headphone that's coming out next year, which has all the visual computers for augmented reality and a 3D sensor, a LiDAR. So it can see.
So describe the whole product that you think is coming. So it's a face-worn device.
An over-the-ear headphone. I have some Sony. I should have brought them in here so you could see the Sonys, right? Sony over-the-ear headphones cost $450. They sound pretty good. You put them over your ears, they sound better than these AirPods, right? In the band of the headphone, the first layer is a heat dissipator. It's a metal that dissipates heat from the GPUs and from the AI chip into the air. The second layer is an M1 chip, which is made in a new manufacturing capability that's a flexible motherboard, right? So that's pretty interesting, new technology. The third layer, from what I hear, is a big-ass battery that could last days. And so they solved all the problems of heat, of speed, and of battery life by putting it in the headphone band. And then a year later, they're going to sell you a visor that's going to jack into the headphone band with a bunch of magnets that are along the side and a new optical connector that's going to light up two 4K Sony displays in front of you. But that's next year. That's 2022. So in 2021, we're going to get the headphone first. And maybe we can look at visuals by holding up our phone, right? And see, augmented reality world, the synthetic reality world that Apple calls it, right? But all right, so Apple is spending billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars on this product, right? So it's not just a pair of headphones. It's a major new product direction for Apple that they've been working on for 10 years. This new product direction is going to have a new search engine. It's going to have a new Siri. It's going to have a new 3D map of the world. And think about the map of the world. It's badass. I've been talking to a lot of people about this. Apple is going to map out your house down to a millimeter, something like a millimeter resolution with its LiDAR. And it's going to know everything. I'm just stop right there. It's going to know everything about you. It's going to know where you left your keys. It's going to know what's in your drawer upstairs next to your bed. And you're going to be like, what? Yeah, you're going to open up every drawer when you're listening to headphones. And it's going to do badass things, right? So I sold headphones for a long time. I sold consumer electronics in the 80s, right? I helped run a little family run store in Silicon Valley. And I sold audio equipment. I sold a lot of expensive speakers to people who wanted to hear separation between the instruments, right? So when you buy a $2,000 pair of speakers instead of a $500 one, you hear the strings on the violin vibrating as somebody rubs it with about, right? This new headphone, you're going to put a band on your front yard, and you're going to be able to walk between the members of the band and hear them, right? So think about walking, having a mariachi band on your front lawn, and you can walk between the guitar and the trumpet and whatever else they're playing. You can grab the trumpet player and take him into the kitchen and drop him there, right? And walk around him, and he'll just stay in the kitchen forever until you move him somewhere else or her somewhere else, right? So that's just the Hello World app. It's just like hello. Isn't this cool? Right. And so this has a lot of implications for the industry that one, you have to understand audio in a whole new way, right? And you have to nail an audio experience on the headphones to be in play for the visual experience that comes with the visor months later, right? So it's brilliant on Apple's behalf for a whole lot of reasons. This gives them the data to improve the LiDAR system and remove noise from it, because right now it's noisy, right? When I scan my house, it has a lot of bumps and a lot of holes and a lot of blurry spots, right? That's noise. And we can see it, right? People are scanning things all day long on Twitter and sharing their 3D scan. You can see it doesn't look perfect, right? It doesn't look nice. So Apple's going to have a 3D scan of your house for a year before they show it to you, right? And they're going to be able to make that thing better and better and better and better over the year. They can just keep adding onto it and getting you to scan new things in your house. And they can overlay a range of new things on your house once they have that 3D scan.
What sorts of things do you think they're going to unlock with that understanding of the world?
Hey, Siri, I just won the lottery and I want to redecorate my kitchen. What do you think? Oh, well, first I'd get rid of the brown wall. And you'd be like, what? How does it know I have a brown wall? And you'd be like, how did it figure that out? But whatever, let's go for it, right? And it's going to know measurements in your room. It's going to know, and then it's going to say, pull out your phone and I'll show you what I would do with it, right? And it'll dress up your kitchen with all sorts of new stuff. New advertising, right? This is why search is so interesting.
That's not a feature I'm going to buy. I'm not going to buy a pair of headphones so I get better advertising. That's not my motivation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That is not what I consider.
You think so? I'm talking to Walmart about these headphones. You're going to walk into Walmart and it's going to know what product you're holding in your hand, what product you're looking at, and it's going to be able to scan that and use the AI chip that's in the headphone to recognize you're looking at a Coke can, right? And so now with Siri, you're going to be able to say, hey, Siri, how much is 20 of these on Amazon? And see the comparison of the price right there, right? And you're going to be able to say, should I buy this dress or this dress? And it's going to go, well, your wife has a lot of purple pants that this one would go with, and she doesn't have anything that goes with this one. You're going to be how do you know? How do you know my wife has purple pants? And I'm like, but it cataloged everything in your house already, right? It probably is not going to deal with some of this right up front because Apple is doing more human factor testing on this product than they've ever done before because of Google Glass. They know this freaks people out. They know this is a freaky technology. They know that giving a major corporation literally everything about you is scary, right?
Yeah.
It's scary for me, and I'm sitting in a Tesla with a camera aimed at my face and another one aimed at my face, broadcasting live on the internet. So, right? So this is going to be a scary product, and they're going to be very muted and very controlling of who gets to touch the data and what gets done with it and what you can do with it. But all right, so there's a whole bunch of things that I've seen in my career that are coming out. When I worked at Microsoft, a guy showed me an array microphone, an array microphone, which was 4 microphones in a little bar, right? And if you have 4 microphones, even if you have only 2, by the way, there's an array microphone in this Tesla car. There's an array microphone on the front of your iPhone, right? When you get 2 microphones, you can start focusing the attention of the microphones on things if you know where they are. That's a big if. Because right now, your iPhone doesn't know exactly where your mouth is, right? With these new LiDAR devices, it's going to know down to the millimeter where your mouth is and where sound is coming from. And it's going to be able to focus the microphones on the front of this. I hear there's up to 9 microphones on this device. And it's going to be able to focus the audio on just your mouth. So let's say we're in a crowded bar or a restaurant that's very, very noisy and we're having a conversation. It's going to sound like this with our headphones on. You take the headphones off, you're going to hear all the noise, right? All the dropping of dishes, all the, put them on. Shit, all I hear is you, right? And that's before the AI gets involved and starts figuring out what's a human voice and what's not, and getting I'm using an app on Zoom, not on this Zoom, but on my other Zoom, called Crisp, which listens to the audio stream with an AI and removes background noise like a vacuum cleaner right next to your computer, right? Because it knows that's not a human voice, so get rid of it. It's not interesting to Zoom, right? Just destroys Zoom, right? So get rid of the noise. So the headphone is going to do stuff like that. It's going to be able to augment audio in your real world and bring a new noise canceling. So there's some slides. My best friend is one of the 12 guys who built the iPhone for Steve Jobs. So we're starting to bet. And Brian Rommel is actually the guy who explained this to me first, this strategy. He got a leak inside Apple, and then I confirmed it. So one of the slides is going to be something like 7.1 surround sound is great. Infinite surround sound is better, right? Now, what do I mean by that? Apple is building a 3D model of your house. It's going to scan your house, scan your front yard. If you go out in the front yard, if you take these things on a walk, it'll be scanning the world. And in fact, in my neighborhood, it doesn't even need to scan anymore because Apple drove a mapping car down my street and has the entire street in 3D already, and has the basics of this new database laid down already. So each millimeter in the world, so think about my Tesla, each millimeter around the world is going to have a virtualized microphone, a virtualized speaker, and a virtualized display, right? Because when we get the visor, we're going to hear a Coke can talking to us. We're going to be able to move that Coke can around and it'll still talk to us, right? It'll know where the pixel is on that can, and it'll move it around and keep track of it, and it'll talk to us and it'll listen to us. It'll know where we're aiming our voice and our gestures, right? It's watching our hands. It's watching our eyes. It's watching our mouth. So June of 2021, we're going to see this headphone. I think we're going to be able to buy it sometime before Christmas next year. And you're going to know the visor's coming.
They're going to talk about the visor when they talk about the headphones?
I think so, because they're going to have to, they're probably going to do this at WWDC next year, right? And they have to talk to the developers and let the developers know, hey, here's a new emulator for the visor. Here's how to build software for it. Here's how to use this new spatial audio capabilities. Here's how to use the new noise canceling. Here's how to use the new search engine. Here's how to use the new Siri in your apps, right? And so they're going to have to explain how this all works to developers. And once you explain something to a developer, they're going to find out all the secrets, right? They're going to figure out, okay, this product is badass, right? It's a lot of new technology. So think about use cases that you might dream about building in this new world. A marching band. You can put a marching band in front of your house walking down the street, and I'll hear it like I hear a real marching band, and I'll be able to walk into the band and hang out with the tuba player, right? I've done that. It's fun. I used to be in a marching band. So I'm imagining an audio experience like this, right? Where you can listen to a parade in your street or something like that. Marching band down the street. The audio has to be recorded a little differently than it used to be. Maybe, right? Because there's an AI that can actually separate the trumpet player from the drum, from the flute, from the clarinet, from the saxophone, right? Each separate audio channel. And so you're probably going to get pretty good new spatial surround sound using AI. But I'm assuming it's better if you give it a really great source right from the start, right? And so recording a marching band, you're going to have to record each instrument separately. Put a microphone on each instrument, and you're going to have to put a microphone that only catches that instrument, doesn't hear anything from a foot away. It's just recording that one instrument. And then you're going to bring those 50 or 100 audio tracks into an Apple product, and you're going to tell it what to look for and how to put each sound onto something, right? So now think about a marching band on your spices, right? You open up the drawer You open up a cabinet where all your spices are, your cayenne pepper, your salt, right? And it can put a marching band member on each spice and blast you with sound. And be like, shit, that's cool. And you could grab the pepper, and that's the tuba player, and you can put that on the coffee table and listen to that, or just bring them all out and arrange them and have fun, right? And the glasses are going to keep track of what sound is on each item, and you can reorganize or remix an orchestra, right? Or a band. So it's going to be a lot of fun to think about for startups, for entrepreneurs. And then in 2022, we get the Visor, and we're in full on into the new paradigm, the spatial computing paradigm, augmented reality paradigm, right? Which, by the way, it's a pass-through device.
The Visor is going to be a pass-through device.
Yeah.
Just describe that.
Okay. Varjo yesterday announced a pass-through VR headset with something that looks like 4K display, right? It's the middle of it sharper than the outside, but your human mind thinks the whole thing is 4K display, right? It's pretty badass. The same thing is going to be true in here. And by the way, the Varjo is a VR device. If it's off, and when I say pass through, when it's off, when the battery dies, you can't see through the device. You're blind. The device goes black, and you have to flip it up to see. And by the way, this thing is going to have a way to flip up the visor into the headphone. The headphone protects the visor and also lets you listen to audio in a shopping mall where these social contract problems can come true, right?
So in the band of the headphones, the visor will be stored when it's out of use, and then I flip it down to engage. The experience is going to be a video pass-through. So my experience with the real world at that time is going to be all mediated through a video camera and the system in order to overlay, its interpretation of the real world plus whatever digital information on top of it.
Yes. So I tell people in this headphone, you're not listening to real audio and you're not seeing the real world. You're seeing Apple's world. You're seeing the map of the volumetric pixels around you, the 3D world around you that Apple wants you to see. And it's going to be pretty cool, right? Because it's going to do infinite things, right? SpongeBob on your family floor, playing a game with you. I don't know. Whatever you can come up with, it's right. There's no end to what you can do visually or with sound with this device, right? It's going to be a new thing. But it's helpful to think that it's letting you see the Apple world. It looks like the real world, but it's not the real world. It's the Apple world. Sure. So Apple's building a digital twin of the real world, right? Or an AR cloud or whatever you could call this. I call it Apple world. Mirror world. Wired magazine called it mirror world, right? Kevin Kelly said it's a mirror world. It's going to be everything you see in the real world, but it's going to be apples in the glasses. So that's something you're going to talk about with a lot of people over the next 18 months, right? Should we let Apple have this power? What does this mean for control of people, for knowing things about them?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Probably don't even know about themselves, right?
Yeah.
Hey Siri, where did I leave my Phillips head screwdriver? Oh, it's in the garage on the third shelf. What? How did you know that?
I think in many ways, it's all of our ambition to fully understand ourselves throughout the course of our lives and to come to acceptance with who that is in reality. But when you talk about this
Don't
notion...
ask me, I'm an asshole, so we can talk about that too.
We'll come back to that.
I had to come into acceptance on that one.
But when you think about this challenge of data, we're talking about orders of magnitude more insight that an Apple or whoever these sort of companies are going to be in this space,
Facebook,
than currently Facebook has. Like Facebook already knows an absurd amount about those that use the social service. And there, it's not just through your direct usage in your, what articles you click on and what you're viewing. They're collecting data in all sorts of interesting ways through your engagement with the social media stuff. But here we're talking about an order of magnitude, at least, if not 2 orders of magnitude, more insight.
Yes.
How do we as an industry, we talk about a social contract. This is part of that social contract.
Yeah.
How can we trust a company with this amount of data?
The answer I'm getting back from my research is it's Apple.
We can trust Apple because they have our best, because they've done a good job with our data so far.
Because I'm very honest with people. And I'm going to write a post that says, do not put these headphones on. You have one choice in this new world, whether to put them on or not. If you put them on, in 3 minutes, it's going to know everything in your house. And I can explain how. And it's heroin. It's addictive. You're not going to want to take it off. So your only choice is, do you put it on? Right? And most people I talk to say, hell yeah, I'm putting it on. But don't you care that it just sucked up literally everything in your life? It's going to know what you're looking at. It's going to know what you're eating. It's going to know what you're holding in your hand. It's going to know who you kissed. It's going to know what you touched. It's going to know where you leave things. Like, hey Siri, where's my blue pair of Nikes? Oh, they're in the hallway. What? How did it know that? It knows everything. Let's just stop there. It's going to know everything about you. And that is, to me, that's a lot of trust.
It's a lot of trust.
My Apple Watch already, knows my heart rate, which is a lot of data, right? There's a lot of data that we are going to be discovering in your heart rate a decade from now, right? And your oxygen level and your arm swings. It knows somewhat if I'm breathing or not, right? It knows a lot of things about me. Yeah, you wait. It's going to know a lot more.
Is Apple the only one then that can pull this off? When because Facebook is out there, they announced their own research platform in a head-worn device.
But Facebook does not have the trust.
They don't have the trust.
Anybody I talk to, right? We all use it. Most of us use it. Use Messenger or Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp or one of their properties. We all use it. We don't love it. We don't trust it. And as we go into this new paradigm, right, which I wrote about with Irina, spatial computing, you're going to want to choose things that you trust. Now, Facebook knows this. Facebook knows they don't have our trust, right? And they're trying to do things, they talk with Kent Pye about privacy and right, and talk with you. They'll talk till their head is blue in the face. They know that they're not going to win the Apple customer away, right? So they're already playing, there's a lot of people in the world that can't afford an Apple device or don't even know about an Apple device because they don't have Apple stores in Vietnam, wherever they are. There's actually some there now, right? Which is really what Apple has. Apple has stores in richest places in the world, right? 450 of them or something like that. It's pretty cool. It's going to be a big year, man. It's going to be a big year.
So Facebook plays the role of Android. Apple plays the role of Apple in this next iteration.
Well, and Facebook is going to be competing with Google for Android, right? Because Google did Android, and Google is working on these things too. They bought Focus by North, and I know they're working on a variety of devices as well. Because here's one slide, maybe not a slide, but this is something I'll write afterwards after getting this. Siri is still going to be dumb as a bag of rocks, but everybody's going to think it's better than Google. Because all of a sudden, if I ask Siri or Google today, how big is this? Now you can see it's a coffee cup, right? Made by a certain brand, right? And so you could probably figure out how big that is pretty quickly by doing an internet search or two and maybe looking at the 3D volume. Siri is going to know that I'm holding a coffee cup, so it's going to be able to answer that question. And it's going to know that I'm looking at it and that I'm holding it, right? That's a lot of new data for search to make Siri look a lot smarter than she is.
She's going to have better context based on these sensors to conduct that search.
Context.
Yeah.
Infinite context. She's going to know you're in your Tesla, right? I mean, as soon as you fire a 3D sensor off in this car, it knows you're in a Model 3 Tesla, right? One 3D shot, right? So a millisecond. Oh, you're in your Tesla. If you're in your kitchen, it's going to figure out you're in your kitchen really quickly. As soon as you turn it on, it's going to know you're in your kitchen because I can look around your kitchen and figure out if I'm in your kitchen, right? If you transport me into your kitchen, I probably could figure out pretty quickly that I'm in a kitchen, right? There's an oven, there's a refrigerator, there's some fruit on the table, There's some cereal on the shelf, right? Stuff like that, right? So all I have to do is do a few things to look around for a few things. I know I'm in my kitchen versus my living room versus the bedroom versus the bathroom versus the closet versus outdoors, right?
Do you think there's any chance that this particular initial iteration of this product, this headphone, with all the compute in the band, the anticipation of having some sort of video pass-through sort of visor system, is meant initially and primarily as a video entertainment system for the living room, as opposed to an out and about everywhere sort of system?
When you get the visor, 2022,
yeah,
it kills all TV. You're not going to watch TV anymore, or you're not going to watch it the same way anymore, right? Because let's say we walk into a restaurant together with this device on our neck, and we see a bunch of TVs playing a sport game we don't care about. They're playing the Jets because we're in New York, and I want to watch the 49ers. So we say, hey, Siri, put all the TVs to 49ers. Now, you have a different team. You might like the Dolphin.
I'm a Broncos fan. It's been a rough few years.
You're a Broncos fan.
Yeah.
See? So you want to watch the Broncos game. So now we have 3 different games to choose from, right? You're watching the Bronco game. I'm watching the 49er game. I grabbed a virtualized TV and put it on my on our dinner table, and I can hear you just fine because the microphones are listening to you just and understanding what audio to pass through to me. So I'm hearing you just fine, and I'm watching my favorite football game, and you're watching your favorite football game, and we're all having a fun time, right? You're not going to watch TV anymore. Not the same way. It's going to be a virtualized TV because you get a big screen in front of you, right? We're getting this with an Oculus Quest. You put on an Oculus Quest and you pull up big screen or one of these TV or YouTube or whatever, and now you have a big virtualized screen in front of you. It's great, right? That's why one reason I love VR is because it lets me virtualize my entire world, right? And build virtual screens.
Yeah.
So this device is going to be the entertainment and services platform for Apple for a long time. So the visor comes out in 2022. Then in 2023, they come out with a lightweight pair of glasses that you can wear mountain biking or walking around a shopping mall or something like that, right? Playing with your kids.
That'll be more direct correlation to what we saw from Google Glass originally. Certainly updated by a decade.
I would say it's closer to a HoloLens, but small.
Okay.
Right? So that's where we're going. And Apple's not alone. Facebook is spending billions of dollars on doing the same thing in about the same time frame. So there's going to be a competitor from Facebook, from Google, maybe from Amazon, maybe even from Tesla, right? We don't know what the future of Tesla is, but Tesla has a big future of disruption, right? The data that this car is collecting is just like what I described with Apple, right? Tesla is building its own 3D map of the world.
Yeah, indeed. Right? And they are anticipating a future in which the car is driving itself, and they have you captive in this environment and all sorts of opportunity to...
Already done. We can talk about my favorite Tesla video last week where I took my hands off the car and filmed it, and everybody was giving me shit, saying, get your hands back on the car. If a computer sees a 3D map of the world and knows this is the path through it, it's going to do it exactly the same every time. And that's why I did it, because I knew it wasn't going to kill me, right? And people are like, oh, what if you blew a tire? Well, what if I blew a tire? This thing's going to be faster at reacting to the blown tire than I am. My wife almost spun our minivan when we got a blown tire, right? It can react a lot faster than you can. It can react so fast, it knows the tire's deflating in 20 milliseconds as it blows up and can start adjusting the braking system before the tire even gets onto the pavement, right? The wheel gets on the pavement, right? And that's what people don't get. Soon, it'll be more dangerous to put your hands on the car than to let the car drive. I believe we're already there. I believe I can already tell the difference between a human driver and a computer driver. And the computer driver is almost always better than the human.
One of the things that Tesla is doing differently from a mindset perspective than many of the others is that they are not relying on a high-definition map of the world. They're not relying on some preconceived notion of exactly how the car should move through the intersection. They're trying to build a system that is interpreting in the moment. Oh, I see the lane right now. I see the human walking across the street right now. I see the lights in this configuration right now, and I'm going to make the right decision based on this information. And it has some understanding of the physical space, but it's more about this real-time interpretation.
You're right if I'm running this version of the OS that I'm running. The people who are getting the full self-driving data that's coming out in a week, the car is going to start mapping out the world. So it can see, the entire, like you said, my car can see that there's a stop sign in front of me, right? And can see that from 100 to 200 yards away, right? So if I'm going 50 miles an hour into a stop sign and goes, oh, there's a stop sign, I'm going to stop, right? The flaws in this system, and very few people understand this unless they have it. So the flaws are, it will not hit somebody else who comes in your lane. It's pretty good at that. It can't see a new pothole real easily, and it can't see debris on the road. So if a ladder just got dropped by somebody on lane number 1 on the freeway, it can't see that. But the second I wrenched the wheel around it, it imaged that and told everybody behind me, hey, there's a ladder in lane number 1. Let's all switch to lane number 3. And your car will switch automatically to lane 3. And you won't know why, right? You won't even be paying attention. Truth be told, you're going to be looking at your phone or talking to somebody in the car while it's driving, right? So Tesla has a lot of data too. Tesla's watching me right now, right? Has a camera aimed at my face, and there's an API in that camera, an AI, that already knows if I'm paying attention to the road, knows if I'm touching the steering wheel, right? It can see that from up there, and can see, am I touching something? Am I holding a phone in my hand, right? And the car already is keeping track of that kind of thing, right?
In this book that you wrote with Irina Cronin called Infinite Retina, you kind of bring these concepts together, the stuff that Apple's working on, the stuff that Tesla's working on, all the AI kind of behind it all. Yeah. And collectively, kind of the industry has been calling this notion spatial computing. How do you define?
Because you get in these arguments about what is VR, what is AR, what is, you've seen them. We have these arguments all day long, and in the community about what to name these things. What doesn't matter. Spatial computing to me is anytime a human, a robot, including an autonomous car, like this is a robot that I'm sitting in, right? Or a virtual being moves through the computing. And what we're talking about for the last hour is moving through a 3D world, right? And virtual being is going to move through that 3D world. A robot's going to move through that 3D world, and we're going to move through that 3D world and see things, hear things, right? On the 3D world, right? Like a band on our front lawn. It's still there.
It's still there. The mariachi band.
It's still there. It's going to be there forever. I'm going to walk by that band 365 times in the first year before I get my visor, and I'm going to hear it. I'm going to walk around it. I'm going to enjoy it. And then I'm going to get the visor in 2022, and I'm going to live with it, right? Today, I can pull the phone out and see it. I can see the band on my front lawn because augmented reality, volumetric band, right? I can hear it, and soon I'm going to live with the band. I'm going to feel like they're actually part of my house. Think about that one.
Is inviting the mariachi band inside your home? Is that the kind of the motivating factor? What's the genesis behind your level of enthusiasm?
I think that's the hello world. Philip Rosedale actually told me this one. He's starting an audio company, right? He's pivoting toward an audio thing with high fidelity. So he's going to put you in a backyard cocktail party. And all of a sudden I'm talking to you and you're over here, and Susie Borders is over here, and we're having a conversation, and it sounds like she's over here and you're over here, right? So he's building that. And that's the hello world app. It's the simplest app that I can explain. It's like put a band on your front lawn and walk around it, right? There's going to be a lot of complexity once you get into your house that is harder to explain, right?
Sure.
Telling you that Siri is going to know the width of your walls, the dimensions of everything in your house, that's a little harder to explain. Yeah, and why you need that.
But in this notion of spatial computing, in which it's virtual beings, it's human beings, it's robots, including cars, moving around 3D space, all of these technologies are very closely related, converging. Yes. And there's an expectation, there's a lot of interoperability between them. And sometimes the interface
Yep.
might simply be an RGB camera and some AI trying to interpret what that RGB camera says. In other cases, there might be a
Yep.
more electronic integration between them, some sort of IoT device that's spouting information that can be interpreted by other devices in this thing.
Yep.
Are they all necessary? Do they all have to come forward at the same time in order for any one of them to be meaningful? Like, do we need this other stuff to happen in order for AR and VR to be ultimately successful in the way that we
Yeah.
want them to be?
All right. So let's go back 8 years ago. I was at the Consumer Electronics Show walking around the back suites, the suites in some of the hotels. For people who've never been in the Consumer Electronics Show, it's a big show, right? It's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of square foot of display space, the biggest conference center in the world, right? And the cool shit, the shit that you and I would probably go see is in these suites back, in some hotel somewhere on the strip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to get an invite to see something new. And by the way, it's usually pretty easy to get an invite because a startup, nobody pays attention to startup, right? They all want to see what the new TV is from LG or something, right? So, paying attention to some company from Israel called PrimeSense that makes 3D sensors, very few people paid attention to that. Because I was there, I saw their PR. Not many journalists were visiting this little, company in the back halls of CES.
And nobody knows about them now because Apple acquired them.
Well, everybody knows about them because the technology that they were talking about and showing off is now in the iPhone that
Sure.
I'm holding, right? And it took eight years from the time I saw it in the backlight. And the guy who was explaining it to me had worked on it for 5 years already. So the founder of PrimeSense, he's worked on it for 13 years. So think about that as your career. You're working on something for 13 years before it ships. Right? And everything he talked to me about is still ahead of us. He showed me how a 3D sensor can see how hard I'm touching things from 3 feet away. Because it can see your finger squeezing together
Sure.
at such detail that it can see that you're pressing down